muted, and we have a little fun standby thingy up as soon as it decides it's going. Hey.
Cool.
Woo!
And then I can put up the thingy. It'll start the event on Facebook.
Yeah.
This is not what. Why do you hate me? I keep doing this, and it's just like.
It's weird getting audio going through already, but it's not supposed to be. Interesting.
That didn't work. Time to start your event. Go to the link provided to start your event. And I didn't see it started. I have this problem constantly. Pieces. I hate this way that I do this. And even so it doesn't send the notifications because serve ASGARD and Lady. Yeah, I see you back there. I started in steampunk 12 years ago now. My very first experience with it was to a little lakeside resort in the middle of Wisconsin in an attempt to get some inspiration to write a book. There was a steampunk event there, and I had been thinking about making my book into the steampunk genre, so I went. And it was a freaking blast. Everyone was so welcoming and so warm. And there were tons of wonderful creative people there. Costumers, people who built things, people who made fascinators, and things like that. And it was such a good experience that I decided to drag my dad into it. He was retired. He was bored. His days were full of Sudoku and complaining about what NPR was saying. Not that it was NPR. It was that state of things, as one does. And I said, Dad, how do you share? Come with me. Just spend one day at this event. So next year I got him to go with me. And, he really enjoyed it. He thought there wouldn't be people his age. And after about 2 hours, just walking around, he goes, there are people my age here. Yes, Dad, yes, there are. It's a very age diverse group. And he's like, I want to do this again. Let's do that big convention that people keep talking about called TeslaCon, and it was in about 6 months. And from there, it was just him and me having fun. That's really what got us started in steampunk, and what keeps me in steampunk is memories of having that time with my dad and having time now with my bestie. So that's my day.
Awesome.
My first steampunk event specifically was Wild Wild West Con. My dad and I always loved steampunk aesthetic and enjoyed things, and I honestly can't remember how he found out about Wild Wild West Con. He was like, hey, why don't we try this? And I was like, sure. Me and my dad are very, very close and do a lot of fun activities together, and so we decided to try something new. We used to be very outgoing for nature stuff, but circumstances that changed. And so we decided to try this new thing with aesthetics and hotels and stuff like that. And so we went and really enjoyed ourselves for 1 year because it was very, very quirky, fun experience with people just dressing up in Victorian wear or whatever the theme is for that year and having a lot of fun with it while also just not taking things super seriously but enjoying yourself in this escapism from reality that was a lot of fun. So me and my dad kept it. Funny enough, it was the year of the pandemic was the first year we went, and the shutdown happened right after, and so then we had to wait till a year or two later to start going to events again, and then we just kept enjoying ourselves and going until I met Marlene, and we started working together and going and enjoying ourselves.
So were steampunk conventions the first conventions that you guys got involved in, or did you kind of jump in the anime or wizard convention or Comic-Con conventions?
For me, sorry. Your turn this time. You go first.
Wild Wild West Con for me was my first convention ever. My dad and I my dad specifically is a very, I don't want to say hermitage individual, because I wouldn't say that's the right word, but me and him are we're introvert, extroverts, so we have fun with people, but we're totally fine being on our own. And so an atmosphere when there's a lot of people is not something we had ever experienced or that we would want to experience until we saw there was just this really interesting aesthetic, and then we were like, okay, let's try it.
Okay.
My turn. The little place that I went to was actually my very first convention. I had gone to several Ren fairs actually before that. I did enjoy the Ren fair. I enjoyed, the costumery and the fun and the quirkiness of it. So that was Ren fair was like my first experience for like a really large event. But it was the Cobb County Fair that was my first smaller event experience, and that was on par with the Ren Fair. It was very similar in a lot of ways because it was being held at this lakeside resort. It was all almost entirely outside. Everyone was staying in, the cabins and all of that. So it was just this um, very cozy, very fun environment to be in, and not too far removed from the Ren Fair. And it gave me all the inspiration that I needed to know that I wanted to make that leap from one genre to another during uh, I would call it a dry spell in writing. I had originally been writing a vampire novel, and then people got into sparkly vampires, and I said, "That's not for me," and I felt the need for a change. So yeah, that was time fairs, and then that very first steampunk event for me.
So when did you start getting into, uh, I guess, personification of what became Asgard and Lady Wheelsworth? Um, did you go to these conventions from the get go and kind of go as a civilian and like scope out the territory, or did you try to immerse yourself in right away?
For me, it was an almost immediate immersion. I made sure to get myself, a couple of skirts that layered nicely and just an inexpensive uh, designer corset, just to kind of fit in because I really enjoyed this stuff anyway. It wasn't too far off from very aesthetic, so um, I was eager to, move into it. I had a friend at the time, a very very close friend jumped into it with me. So we went together that first um, and decided, if we're going to do research about we wanted to, enjoyed doing our best to jump into it with both feet, so to speak. So my very first event, I went with one kind of sort of, thrown together costume, um, and it was a lot of fun. I like to do my research. I like to fully nosedive into stuff. Sometimes I bite off more than I can chew. But in this case, it was, a fun costumery that ended up adding to the experience.
Yeah, if it's one thing I learned from going to Renaissance fair, just like a civilian, you're going to get picked out of the audience to come on stage to any of the shows you sit in. So that was my excuse from the get go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's kind of true.
my thing was we didn't dress as civilian like either. We immediately bought clothes, got a bunch of fun stuff on Etsy, and then dressed up and went. My dad loved the Western aesthetic. We were really Western cowboy, and then I just had a Western female version of that, which was like all red and a really fun, pretty thing because while I was in that old Tucson studio, it was nice being able to immerse yourself in that fun experience while everybody was dressed out. And there were very rarely anybody that was dressed up casually at these cons, I've noticed. Everyone's well, you listen casually, or if like it's people are like, okay,
Relax day.
And even relaxed days for fun can still warrant fun outfits. So but I fully immersed myself immediately as well. And then the persona part came afterwards. the COVID and persona.
Yeah, same here. Ironically, I encouraged my dad in cities in civilian clothes because he didn't want to put forth the effort to buy clothing and all of that when he wasn't sure he was going to like it. He was giving it a chance. I'm like, well, come in whatever you're comfortable with, blue jeans, polo shirt, I don't care. I don't care. Just come for one day to see how it is. And everyone, what I have noticed is when you do run into someone who is in clothing, um, in at least in the steampunk community, as far as I've experienced it, they are so welcoming and so warm to everybody, regardless of what they are wearing. That I think was the thing that got my dad into it. Was he was welcomed and he wasn't looked at funny for being in blue jeans. They were just like, "Oh, you're here. We're glad you're here. Who are you here with? Oh, she's we know her. She's a cutie." Because they say that. And it grew from there for him. So at least in the steampunk community, whereas both myself and Sterling jumped into it, and Sterling's dad jumped into it, full regalia or near full regalia. It's not a requirement, and it's still so much fun to go in blue jeans and a t-shirt just to see everybody's costumes, and you won't get looked at one way or another. So
One good thing I've noticed about the steampunk community is very accepting no matter what you are and who you are, what your aesthetic is. Like, if you want to try it out, a normie. No, I'm not gonna say that. Most people accept you full on and be like, "Hey, want to become one of us?" Why not? Like start with steampunk with just like a pair of goggles or a hat, and a lot of the time I've noticed, at least when you start there, at least in my personal experience and people that hang around this experience, it does not stop once you start.
The gateway costumery. Yeah.
It's
And then you're in it.
it's certainly the place where you can be weird, and that is the norm, and it's a safe place to do it.
Yeah. Weird is the way. And that honestly, that brought a lot of joy to my dad. By the next year, he had gotten himself a lab coat and uh, some accessories. My stepmom was on board all the way. She was enthusiastic as heck. Just like, yes, we're going to do this. This is so cool. I love this stuff. And it was great. It brought a lot of fun for him in his retirement years. So good things.
Awesome. So, at what point in time did you choose to dive into it and make it a thing? I guess you two partnered up and have created this dynamic duo of a personified story that you guys seem to be building off of over the years. I remember being at your two first Testicons and being a part of your skit, which was fun. But kind of walk us through a little bit about that story and what made you guys kind of jump into it together.
It started because of my dad. Um, he offered. So Marlene came to Wild Wild West the first time after moving out here, and she was dressed up as Eleanor, very very teasing. So she was the long done. A lot of people wanted to take photos and everything else. We gave her space because we were like, okay, there's some overwhelm going over there. Until later that night, my dad saw her by herself, talking to her, and realized she hadn't eaten all day, and went, okay, sit down, I'm ordering food. So he got her some food, I came over, we were talking, and found out that they couldn't get a room for Sunday, but the kiddo wanted to go into the costume fashion show or costume contest, one or the other. I think it was
Costume contest. I think it was a costume contest. Yeah.
and nice standard. And she wasn't going to be able to do it, so we offered to give her our second bed and we just on the other bed so that they could have fun for the next day. And it slowly grew from there to a small friendship to her wanting to do this professionally and going, okay, cool, I'll be your social media manager if I can go to cons, hang out.
I need it.
You still need it.
I still need it. Still do. That hasn't changed.
To her then wanting a handler, and being like, hey, really? You want to be my mechanic? And I was like, well, what do you mean? What do you mean? And then we decided to test our skills to see if we were compatible because we had never done a project before or anything else, and suddenly we were thrown into Gaslight, where he dumbly, I'm going to say dumbly because we did not know our limits. We're doing like 48-hour works and obviously beginners working on this huge costume, which was Sally from Nightmare Before Christmas, the Steampunk version. And we worked really well together. Had a really fun time at that event. She was Edgar, I was Sally. It was good. And then we made a lamppost right after that for the first time. I realized we were really well there too. So kind of realized that for a dynamic that I'm really good naturally with the prop work and she's really good naturally with the sewing. And so we formed this duo of, okay, you'll be software, I'll be hardware, and we'll switch off on who with our projects so that we can work together and during our time.
It's such a cool thing to see how it's evolved over that time. ASGARD has been a character for a number of years, but it was always between me and my dad, and we only did it at Spillin. It was nothing professional. It was nothing, lasting or repetitive. It was just once a year I dressed up as a robot and my dad dressed up as a mad scientist. That was kind of our thing. And over the years, over the next couple of years, his condition got such that he needed to go somewhere drier, warmer, more predictable when it came to weather. So he moved, and he moved to Arizona. I preemptively moved to, kind of make sure that I was there for when, if he needed help in moving and all of that. And TeslaCon was now something that I couldn't just pop up and do. It wasn't close by anymore. But Tucson Comic Con, Wild Wild West Con was. And after several years of not having done ASGARD at all, I was like, you know what? I bet this could be fun. I'll give it a try. And I went myself. My husband watched our kiddo, and I was roboting around solo. And Sterling hit it nail on the head. It was overwhelming. And her dad rescued me, and then her dad rescued us again when they offered us a place to stay at the hotel. And it just kind of it evolved naturally from there. But it's so cool to think of it as ASGARD was never professional until the besties met. And yeah. That after Wild West Con, I felt like, okay, there's a chance that I could do this for fun. But I knew in my heart of hearts, I am not capable of doing it by myself. And when you think about it, Asgard was never by herself. There was a mad scientist to be. She was a foil for the mad scientist, and now she's a foil for the mechanic. They're foils for each other, and it fulfills a story that she can't tell on her own because she doesn't have a physical voice. That storytelling has to be done through gimmicks and slapstick and interaction. I couldn't do that by myself. It was lackluster. So one day we were talking after I had done several conventions on my own, and Sterling laid it out to me pretty straight. She's like, Marlene, you have to stop talking. It breaks the aesthetic. You have to stop talking. I'm like, I can't stop talking. I have to answer the questions when they're asked because there's nobody to answer them. And she goes, well, then you need a handler. I'm like, you're right, I do need a handler. Hey, Sterling, wanna be my mechanic? And it was an evolution of us kind of poking at each other and prodding at each other and like, okay, how can this be done better? How can this be done better? And always finding a way to increase our skills. So, fast forward through parts of the story that Sterling has already given, we just kind of evolved around each other character-wise. Asgard wouldn't be who she is without Lady Wheelsworth. So it's cool to know that yes, Asgard did exist previously, but the dynamic duo, professionally speaking, it's always only been the dynamic duo. So it's just a really cool thing to think about.
I will make one note of funniness is the first year that we were working together, everybody thought we knew each other for years because of how good it was. We're like, no, and everybody would be really, really surprised. And now we can't say that, and I'm like, God dang it. But still,
So
it was great.
You definitely jumped on a couple of points there where I kind of just cut you off. Did you want to say some more?
No,
okay. No, you kind of dabbed a little bit, and just because I know you guys a little bit more than maybe people who are watching, or maybe not, but what is the persona story? What is the fictional story that you guys created for your team? If you can give us like a Cliff Note version of that adventure that's ongoing.
Take it away, Sterling.
So Asgard was created in 1864 by Sir Bevel in Blue, which was her, technically her character, her father. And he was a mad scientist who basically wanted his daughter to not talk back and just do what she wanted. She left to go and pursue different things, and because of that, the scientist created an automaton in the reflection of his daughter. And the automaton's main purpose was to be able to serve tea and to basically do what he wanted. Through time that is lost and that you can find on our Patreon, because we have a daily ether that has little article clips of adventures. Lady Wheelsworth found Asgard and her crate box at a scrapyard. When Lady Wheelsworth found her, she was very fascinated and wanted to repair this automaton, and as she repaired her, found out the history of this person, or not person, this creature isn't right either. Robot.
Invention. It's this invention.
This invention has her own autonomy due to the fact that she has a heart made out of ether, which has been upgraded by Lady Wheelsworth to give her more power because the other one was shutting down. And currently there is no present story, but we're building up the history in between as we find different articles about Asgard and the people that she's come across and the adventure she's going on, such as, for example, the pioneer Polonius von Fugly Wuggly, which is my dad's character, who is our airship captain, and our tool specialist, who's a black market character who keeps us fed at conventions, and which is Tizar Maya's character. We have this thing where we do parallels to what's actually happening in reality to what our story is building fictionally. That's really fun. While we're getting the consent of our friends to enjoy these adventures while we're building up, which is actually all in the I'm gonna get this wrong because I want to say Bloodburn. Ember Bloods, got it.
There you go.
Which is actually based off it's based off her book and the universe she created. So it's not connected to it because we want that connection to be distinct, but we wanted it in the same universe while we're creating this whole world.
Yeah. So we have it's neat to incorporate characters as we're given permission to do so, such as Thaddeus Palavar, which is Tizar Maya's fuel specialist character. Polonius von Fugly Wuggly, which is Sterling's dad. Sir Bevel Insalute was my dad. So he's a historical figure, but we do get to honor him when we go to conventions, which is a big honor. That's a lot of fun. And we have.
Sorry, that's another fun note. Is one of our panels that we do at conventions, which is Origins of Asgard, ends up having little pieces of history come up during those panels, mostly because of audience members bringing up questions or things like that we have to come up with on the fly for history. And then we're like, that's a good idea. Okay, we're going to see how we can implement that into the story.
We're going to keep this. Yeah, exactly. Roughly half of the past has been ad-libbed through these interactions.
But for Bourbon City specifically, we basically, Eve Riot and Asgard basically came up with why Asgard broke, which was during
ended up in the scrapyard.
Which was we still need to write about it for the Daily Ether, but we came up with the fact that she was on a big ball and she slipped and went.
And it fell apart.
So it's like little tiny things while we're interacting, and it's like a immersive story that you can get involved with if you come see us, or you can get involved with if you join Patreon or like doing stuff like that. It's a lot of fun to implement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Marlene might know this a little bit about TeslaCon, given that she's been there quite a bit. But from what I understand, the convention itself has a strong tie to the immersion and the attendees, that there have been a lot of things that have happened spontaneously throughout the year that kind of drive the story of TeslaCon forward to become what it is now. And it's those weird things that you can't script, you can't manifest until they actually happen, and it just becomes a key component of the story that you're kind of living through, in your fantasy world that you're working with. So it's kind of really awesome that things like that build off themselves just from audience participation, or just regular people doing their thing.
Yeah. I absolutely agree, and I think it's led to quite a few of our favorite moments that we never would have been able to predict. I mean, it's you never know what you're going to experience from crowd to crowd, and it's always so much fun to kind of see what highlights come out of each of the shows that we go to.
Definitely.
And Sterling, you kind of touched on this a little bit with what you were talking about, but my first couple times meeting Asgard at TeslaCon, with your dad, you have had a lot of upgrades since then, like physical upgrades. What made you guys decide to do the ones that you did for the project? I think the most notable that I think I experienced more social media excitement out of Asgard and her new hairpiece out of anything. Um, but I know that the heart component is a big deal too. But talk about a little bit about what you've done, both I guess in a storyline sense as well as a um, crafting sense is what you've done for upgrades for your characters.
Can I do this one?
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite stories to tell.
It's so funny.
It's one of my absolute favorite stories to tell because it's such a story of resistance and acceptance and finding how well we work together. The new headpiece was inspired by the 1920s theme for Wild West Con. And I will be straight up and honest with you. For the first 8 years of Asgard's life, up until Lady Wheelsworth came into the spotlight with Asgard, upgrades were slim to none. She was basically the same build that she was 8 years prior. And when we started working together as a team to do this more seriously, one of the first Asgard and Lady Wheelsworth specific projects that we did was the lamppost and the hairpiece. The hairpiece being the first big change for Asgard since then, and I was very resistant to the idea of kind of what was being put forward, which was the curls, the more voluminous way that the headpiece lies, but it was a matter of, okay, let's just try it and see. So more or less based off the original piece, Sterling made these massive improvements and was just like, you know what the heck, let's just try this. And I know that she can tell you more detailed about her prop work and how she kind of approached the whole thing. I'm not going to steal that thunder because she is our prop specialist. But I will say that by the time it was finished, it was just in time for our meet and greet at Wild Wild West Con with a bunch of other people who were attending as special guests. And she brought the head, my Asgard head form to me with the new piece on it. And I was so bloody pleased and excited with how it looked that I held on to it. And I cradled that head through the entire meet and greet party and would brag to anyone and everyone that looked at it, look what my friend did. Look what my mechanic did. This wasn't me. This was her. And it's still one of the favorite parts of Asgard, but it was a big wake-up call to me, who was used to being solo and alone, that working together as a team was a much, much stronger approach. So it's still one of my favorite stories.
I think it was really funny because after that, we were originally going to go back to the regular headpiece and just occasionally bring out the 1920s one when it fit the con, but people enjoyed it and liked it so much that we just had to keep it.
We kept it.
Well, it's permanent now. That's the permanent one. The upgrades Asgard has gone through isn't just the headpiece. Yeah, the headpiece specifically was because of the 1920s thing. The other upgrades we've done so far is mostly because things were falling apart. Which is probably going to be why we do some more new upgrades next year that are coming up, and for Lady Wheelsworth as well. But it's one of those things where when something falls apart for us, or it starts breaking, we kind of, both me and Marlene go, okay, how can we make this better with the new skill sets that we have? Because as we grow as creators and as we learn more difficult skill sets, we can implement it more and make it better. And it's really fun to see how much we've progressed from where we started to where we are. And I think that shows specifically in the Asgard heart, for me, on the prop work at least. I had played with lighting before, for like goggles and stuff like that, for like LED lights, but I've never actually implemented it hugely in a centerpiece. And being able to do a lot of research and like have fun with like making and creating this integral piece that a lot of people really enjoy on Asgard's chest is really special, I think, as well.
Yeah, most definitely. It was the heart that she always was missing.
Also, really, I think a really good upgrade we've overlooked that we haven't really gotten into was to show how well we work together, even if we have different skill sets, is the springs.
Yes.
Which was a lot of sewing, as well as adding in more, which was really fun because we were trying to think of it in a prop way as well as sewing. Because I don't know sewing. I'm not the sewist. That's all Marlene. So being able to work together and actually think about like the full idea of what we're working on helps with that. And we're actually one of our main projects for Asgard's upgrade next year implements that again, and that'll be really fun.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be really exciting, and I agree with you. The arm springs are, I think, one of the most interactive parts of Asgard. They can be touched, they can be prodded at, they can be looked at real close. They're somewhat kid friendly with gentle hands, but it's really cool how we took our skills for the arm springs specifically, because they're anchored with bands on my arms so that the springs will stay like in the crook of my arm. It was one of those situations where I was like, okay, I need to make new armbands because the old ones are starting to fall apart. They're failing. The Velcro's no good anymore. They don't stand out the way it could now that we've upgraded like the blouse and all of that. And Sterling goes, well, it's not very 3D. How can we make it more 3D? And we put our heads together on this almost exclusively sewn piece, and she brought the 3D element into it. And I think we were not expecting our skill set to melt as well as they did for that. And it's just such a small detail, but one that adds so much depth to the costume at large, that it's one of our favorites. I will say though, the heart and the headpiece are the things that get talked about the most. And those are the pieces where people will walk straight up to Sterling and ask her for lessons and ask her to teach them how to do these things. And my favorite thing to brag about on the headpiece specifically is, that was her first attempt with EVA foam. The first attempt with EVA foam. First time ever working with it. And professional cosplayers will look her in the eye and go, shut up. Are you serious right now? And yes, we are very serious.
I'm a lot more modest than her on that take, and I usually don't say that. She will kind of interrupt and go, hey.
I totally interrupt every time and be like, guess what? It's my favorite thing to do. I like to brag about my bestie.
Don't brag about you too and your makeup skills. We just haven't gotten into that yet.
I mean,
you know, you can do the same thing I do.
We do this to each other all the time. Do we ever learn? No, that would ruin the fun.
No.
That's fair. That's fair.
Build up your best friend, because
how dare.
About every time.
So, I invited you to an interesting situation this year, um, and having both of you, having the invite to come to TeslaCon, which is next week, and specifically to engage with a specific part of the convention. For people who don't know, I am Mr. Steeps, who runs the TeslaCon tea room. That's where I pretty much spend my entire weekend. And we dish out a lot of tea and a lot of Turkish coffee. And I had this crazy idea because I knew Marlene and I knew Sterling and I knew Asgard's backstory about essentially being created to serve tea, and thought I would kind of spin this whole thing into bringing you into the tea room, to um, I don't know what the right words are to use, to, I guess, immerse yourselves with our guests and our staff and whatever shenanigans come out of that. Um, I think it's going to be a fun thing. I don't know if this is something you guys had experience with before, as being like hyper focused entertainment for a specific thing, but um, why don't you tell me a little bit about what you're thinking going into this? Because you said yes, so you had to have some sort of thoughts behind it.
Uh, well,
So we it's kind of a similar idea that we came up with Teasar Maya for Bourbon City, which was tea with Asgard. You go and you have tea with her and you interact with her and you basically you get to relax and have fun while you watch this robot serve you tea. In this scenario, she won't be serving tea because there are servers, but she will be interacting with everybody in the tea. But there are similarities and parallels that'll be really fun. So we thought when the offer came up and we were talking about it, it was really interesting because it had already happened similarly once this year with Marlene. I wasn't there for it because if you know, you know. But I think it'll be an interesting experience being able to immerse and hang out with a bunch of guests that are not expecting a robot to go, let me steal things, or let me do this, or let me do that. And we're very improv oriented when it comes to Asgard interacting with people. And don't take us offensively, Marlene, but it's almost sometimes like a dog with a newspaper going black nose, no, don't do that. Like, because she'll repeat it, and it's a fun gimmick going back and forth of her like being stubborn automaton being like, no, I can do this, I'm loud, and the mechanic, absolutely not, stop it. And it's true, it's a
it is. It's a neat dynamic that we have, and it's the longer we do it, the better we get at it. I got kind of one note for a while. I'm working on improving my improvisation skills. Using the things that we have around us. If I have to revert back to something that is known, because we are very consent based as well. Like if people are away from us and they are acting shy, we will not interact because we're not going to get in people.
Sorry. We also make a point to actually say at the beginning of any interaction, any panel, if you are not comfortable, please move away. Don't start interacting back so we know those cues of, hey, you don't want to be involved in this, because consent is very important.
Consent is very important. The way that things are set up in a panel situation is you'll have those rows of chairs. Well, if Asgard is going to be interacting with people, I need to be able to reach them. I need to be able to reach for the things that I want to steal. I want to be able to reach for the things that if I'm going to steal something, it's going to be from the person's hands, unless they offer me their head to take their hat off, because sometimes you can't do that. But usually it's become a somewhat known tactic of, if Asgard is really fascinated by something, she'll point at it. And if you allow her to have it, she is going to do shenanigans with that prop. It can be a cane, it can be a hat, it can be glasses, it can be a fan, it can be a lantern. Don't give her those; she has a tendency to bite them. Just all sorts of anything that can be offered is basically it's known as yes, you may touch it, yes, you may play around with it. But it's easy to get people in a panel situation to sit in the middle of the seat, and I know not to go there. In the tea room situation that we had at Urban City, tea with Asgard, you were there to interact with Asgard. So we still did the hey, if you want to interact in a certain way, or if you would prefer not to, that's fine. Just sit in these specific areas, and interaction will be minimal. It's going to be interesting to see how we adapt in a tea room where people can come and go as they please for extended periods of time. But that's, of course, one of the cool things about being invited to do this is we also get to know the staff that's in the tea room. We get to figure out, okay, how do we communicate with the tea room staff? How do we communicate and learn who would like to be interacted with or not? It's going to be a learning curve, but it's going to be a fun challenge to figure out, okay, how can we improve our presence at the con to make it a really cool experience for everyone around us.
I also think there will be some fun behind the scenes scenarios where when you do have like a break or something, we'll be able to talk to like staff and be like, hey, can we do this shenanigans? Hey, can we come up with one small thing? And I think that's the difference. That's going to be the difference between teen room and the panels is like the panels, we don't have that. You can't really talk to the stranger and be like, hey, because they're expecting the whole improv thing. With the tea room, there will be behind the scenes a little bit more. You can interact and be a little bit more extensive to be like, let's put this together real quick and then interact that way.
So when you guys go to other steampunk conventions as guests, what are some of your go-to must not miss activities that you really look forward to?
Normally we're working most of the con, so it's hard to get to activities that we really want to be at. I think one of the biggest things that we do is usually trying to help support our friends that are doing creative things as well. So if we have friends that are doing panels, we'll go and try to support them and interact with their panels. If we have friends that are like doing specific like activity events or things like that, we will try to get there when we can. One of our biggest problems is when we are on the con floor, we get stopped a lot because it is an immersive experience because ASGARD is in character, and so sometimes we just can't. Put it simply, we view when we are under contract at a con, what we do is we are on a job. That to us, it is a job. It is professional. If we have downtime, then we will go to the panels and work on them work on and enjoy people as much as we can. But we want to be able to entertain because we are there to entertain. And I think one of my favorite things about that is being able to see joy on people's faces by being able to immerse ourselves and interact with people.
Most definitely. I would agree with that. It even seeing familiar faces, but those familiar faces are playing into that character role. The ones who know us well, when we're out on the floor, when we're in character, they go right along with it. they jump right into, oh, Lady Wheelsworth, or this is ASGARD. ASGARD, where's Lady Wheelsworth? Where's the mechanic? That has been a resounding question over the last several cuts, which we played into. Now part of our story and our history. I would say, yes, Lady Wheelsworth is missing. I would say that probably one of my absolute favorite in-character moments was one of our very first in-character moments. It happened at TeslaCon. Would you like to tell this one, Sterling?
How about you? You like that one?
I do like that one. I won't if you don't want me to. If you want to tell it, you can. Or okay, here, go. So at our first TeslaCon together, that was Lady Wheelsworth's official debut. Was at that first TeslaCon that we went to together. The lamppost was new, the costume was, fairly new, and we were getting ready to hit the floor for the first time. And on our way down the elevator, there was this soft conversation between us of, well, they already knew ASGARD, but they'd never seen Lady Wheelsworth before. So there was this concern that ASGARD would be recognized that Lady Wheelsworth is a who's that kind of scenario. And we get off the elevator, we're maybe 30 feet into the hallway, right? Where you have that dais that goes around what is now the tea room. We made it to the opposite side of that. And the very first thing that anybody says is straight to Sterling. What a lovely automaton have. Did you build her yourself? And that was her very first interaction with anybody. And I'm standing behind her, and she looks up at me like, help, what do I do? But after that, it was all in stride. Because that very first moment on that floor, knowing that we were a duo, was, I like to rub it in. I like to brag about that one too. That's one of my favorites.
Because I was kind of insecure thinking that they weren't going to accept Lady Wheelsworth as the new, handler scenario, and then it just was immediate. Mm-hmm. And so you're like, hey, I told you so.
Was that Hawthorne Manor? Was that the theme that you guys were there for?
That was Hawthorne Manor.
That was Hawthorne Manor. That was one of the few conventions I was not tied to the tea room, and zipping back and forth. You guys didn't move very quickly through that convention just because of all the stopping. And I remember seeing you guys in the rotunda area, in between vendors and panel rooms, and maybe getting 5 steps away between me going back and forth. So it was definitely fun to see that you guys were getting the attention and getting the conversations and getting to tell your story. It's always good to hear that. Real quick, looking at our chats on YouTube right now, a Mr. Fish says hi. If you guys know who that is. So fun. So are there any other good memory moments that you guys have from your steampunk experience together? That was a duck.
That was a duck. Sorry. Can you repeat the question for me?
You guys have any other memories that really stick out and I guess helped define a little bit more about what you guys do and why you guys do what you do, other than it being fun and exciting?
It's not necessarily the duo all separated just a little bit for this scenario. Convention owners and people with disabilities will come up to me and talk to me specifically about what me and Marlene are doing to help with ADA accessibility in the steampunk convention space. And one thing, if you go to mine and Marlene's panels, is we usually are always doing at least one panel based on disabilities. Whether that be the history of a disability, what it's like to be a maker with a disability and being kind of like the caretaker of the person or having ADHD, etc. So we go into mental and physical scenarios. A lot of people say that we're making a difference. And I don't actively see it because I am, my own mindset is very, I'm not going to say insecure, but very, I make a difference on my own or with Marlene. Like, I think Marlene actually feels a little bit that way too sometimes. Where you're just like one person in a big space and being told specifically that you're actively helping to make things better or making a difference to make things better, even if it's small or even if it's bigger than you think, means a lot because we do want to bring awareness to specific things when it comes to ADA accessibility or how things were in the past, and you don't want to glorify specifically what an aesthetic is when there was so much wrong with the way things were. And being able to have people come up to me or Marlene and talk to us and say, hey, this really meant a lot, or hey, we're seeing a difference. It means more than I can describe without getting emotional.
That's always a good thing. Kind of along those kind of same lines, I actually had a little bit of a question. Do you ever take Asgard and Lady Wheelsworth outside of the convention experience? I know I have a past life of working in the anime convention space, and I got to know a lot of folks who actually formed organizations like Cosplayers for a Cause and things like that, where they actually would do superhero meetups at children's hospitals and things like that to keep their spirits up and things like that. I'm curious if you guys have ever taken Asgard to an out of con experience or out of Ren Fair experience and kind of utilize them to, I guess, bring entertainment, bring fun, bring joy to people outside of that.
Not as of yet. Um, it's something that we've talked about. When it comes to like doing things like visiting kiddos at a children's hospital or something similar, the the main morale that comes from something like that is that kids get to meet characters that they know and characters that they feel are heroes. So the one barrier that we have there is we are original characters that are well known in a niche space, but we're not well known in a wider realm of like character design and development. So the the idea is definitely something that we would like to pursue when the time comes for that. But it hasn't come along just yet. We have had quite a few interactions with the organization here in the state of Arizona that does exactly that. They send heroes to children's hospitals to interact with the kids and give them a treat of meeting a hero or two. And some of the actors, some of the cosplayers who do that have told us they they'd love to find a way to get us incorporated into that, and it's the same thing. We're not well known yet, so it's not something that's high demand yet. But given the right circumstances, I think outside of something like that, the right event, the right themed party, the right larger event would be a lot of fun to try that out at. Um, when we have a little bit more planning under our belt and a little bit more time, I think it'd be a lot of fun to go out somewhere public that has a large population, just to get through that crowd and be like, and just be the cool kids there that are these characters to drum up an experience for people outside of the steampunk community. I think that would be really fun.
I suddenly had the vision in my head of like in the old 60s and 70s when mimes were at the park, just kind of doing their thing. It's like this can be that. What I'm hearing is you need a movie deal and a comic book deal, and that'll get you into space.
Who knows? Who knows? We'll see. We'll grow into those opportunities. I think. What was that face for?
My cat bit me.
Oh, which one?
Subtle about my face, that didn't work. He was very adamant about biting me.
That would be Rose then. Yep. Shot cat. But yeah, I do think, as we continue to grow and gain experience, we will look beyond that one convention experience and try out some other things. And some things might work and some things might not. It just kind of depends on how that goes. Testing and seeing, and it's okay if things fail. You never know until you try. So that's one of those things where it doesn't mean that you failed badly. It just means you found something that doesn't work for what you're doing. But I do look forward to that, getting out there and trying a different kind of event. So
yeah, there's a quote, something along the lines of Edison found 1,200 ways not to make a light bulb first.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. I did not find 10,000 ways to fail. I found 10,000 ways not to make a light bulb.
There we go.
So it's absolutely true, and we like to approach everything with kind of like that learning mindset of new experiences, new materials, anything that we're trying to work with. It's a lot of fun to just see what we can do with it and learn from. So even if it doesn't work, we still have new skills from that we can apply moving forward.
Awesome. Well, I did plug TeslaCon a little bit earlier today on this conversation. Are there any other events that folks can see ASGARD and Lady Wheelsworth at coming up this year?
Our next events are Wild Wild WestCon, Bourbon City in Kentucky. Then we have, I think that's for March, April. We're going to be trying to hit Fan Fusion, City, potentially Tucson Comic Con, and there's a couple other ones that we gotta discuss first, but for sure, Bourbon City and Wild Wild WestCon.
That'll be early next. But for this year, for this calendar year, TeslaCon will be our final con.
Your finale con for the year.
Our finale con
Yeah,
for the year.
there we go.
So it'll be a lot of fun to be back at the event where actually both of us started in our separate right back at it in a different capacity. So
Oh, We are
Get us started.
we are welcome to have you back. So, I wanted to jump in a little bit. You 2 do a lot together that aren't convention stuff with, the ASGARD and Lady Wheelsworth project. Do you wanna talk a little bit about what those initiatives are? I know you guys got a Patreon, and, you have a lot to offer folks to be involved and support you guys, as you move forward with this, so let it rip. Plug yourselves.
Specifically when it comes to supporting us, we have all of our social medias. So Facebook, Instagram. We have a Discord for the Asgardians, which is our little community based thing where you can come and hang out for creatives to interact as well as for those disability questions to interact. Um, there's a page for Red Marlene's book to interact. Um, Specifically, if you want to support us and help us with conventions and help us be able to keep creating and do what we love, because we would love to do it full time at some point. That would be Patreon. We have a free tier if you just want to see where we're going, because that's like the best place to see where to interact with us at, as well as some like fun little posts that we post every once in a while. We call them feel good posts. Then we also have like 4 to 5 tiers that you can interact and get merch from, which ranges from stickers to an Asgard and Lady Wheelsworth tea, pins, and then we do tea tasting reviews, which are not professional under any circumstance, us being dorks and having fun. Uh, we then have the daily ether, which we did talk about before, which is basically into the history of Asgard, her friends, and the adventures that go on. And we also have bi-monthly Patreon streams that are for just all of our Patreon members. If you pay, have a theme um, for every stream, and we talk about it and come up with a more scheduled and more guideline stream. And then we also have the in-character as our first stream that we do quarterly. I think I nailed everything. I don't know if there's a bunch of different things on there, so I think but the link is in the description. You
Yep.
can go to the Linktree and find everything.
Awesome. Are there anything that you guys wanna talk about that I might have missed?
No, I think you pretty much nailed it, Mr. Interviewer.
Okay.
So,
Mm.
thank you for having us, Mr. C.
You are very welcome, and I look forward to seeing you guys, next week.
Yay.
So I'll end the interview, and thanks for spending some time with me and enjoying our Halloween night. Poorly planned. We could have been out dressed up, causing all kinds of chaos today instead of being on a stream, but, I do appreciate the time you guys take. Talk to you later.